Second round series, we got the Suns and the Mavs, and a lot of discussion around Luka's fourth quarter defensive targeting, huh? So
It was rough, man. Last night was that first half from Luka was amazing. He was getting to his step back. He was taking advantage of every single mismatch that he had. Ismac Biombo looked kind of foolish out there. He had some moments where they got that switch onto Busy and he was just going in at him.
yeah,
That first half he dropped 24 points and then that second half came in and he just looked burnt out. He looked gassed and he only had 11 in that second half. So it was a rough second half. Sure, you expect a whole lot more from guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Brunson, and just the others in itself. And the only guy that you had there was Reggie Bullock. So
yeah.
second highest scorer. That's not going to do it if you're Dallas. What do you think? What do you think needs to change going into
Um,
game three? Because they're going to be back at home. This is a must win. It
yeah.
really is. If they lose this,
I
they're
think
done.
I think they get swept if they lose this game. But I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
that as far as adjustments need to go, obviously the Mavs are built to play Luka ball.
Yeah, exactly.
The Mavs to me, I say this a lot. The Mavs to me are a carbon copy of the 2018 Rockets.
Very true.
Jalen
And
Bronson is CP3, Spencer Dinwiddie's Eric Gordon. It's like it's striking how similar they are. A lot of the times Jason Kidd runs. He doesn't run a traditional center. He's got
no.
Dorian Finney-Smith, who's like at four at best, sometimes playing
Yeah.
the five. He runs
Yup.
two guards, two forward, or three forwards, two guards and three forwards. That's all it is. So I
Exactly.
think I don't know. Somehow they have to get Jalen Brunson involved in the Luka ball. Whether
They
that's
have
like,
to.
yeah, Luka cannot carry the offense for 48 minutes. We saw it last night in the fourth quarter. It was honestly
Exactly.
embarrassing. I think they
Yeah.
have to get the other players involved. What do you think?
Very true. I agree with you. The only thing about getting Jalen Brunson involved is we saw Jalen Brunson do good without Luca. So like I feel like I haven't seen a game where both of them are truly bouncing back off of one another. I feel like we've only seen them perform well when they're off of the court because we saw in that first series against the Jazz that Jalen Brunson played his best basketball when Luca was not playing. He
That's a
was
good point.
single-handedly carrying that Mavs team and I don't know if there's a way that they can both truly play together. I know that you said that it's reminiscent of that Rockets team, and that reminds me that James Harden played with Chris Paul, and they meshed well. Sure, they were two
Hmm.
both ball dominant guards, but they got pretty far, and they definitely could have made a finals appearance if it weren't for CP3 getting injured. Obviously, Jalen Brunson isn't on the same level as Chris Paul, but
Yeah.
at the same time, he's still a dog. Like Jalen Brunson is like that, and I just I'm not quite sure how they're gonna find a way to get those two to mesh because it's the Luca show
Yeah, it
solely,
is.
and if Luca's shooters aren't hitting, if Maxi isn't hitting his threes, if Davis Bertans isn't hitting his threes, like they're truly gonna struggle. So I think that the only way that those two can mesh together is if they don't play on the court at the same time
Yeah,
together.
like
If I'm
staggering
being
their
honest.
minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
which is also nice because that can have a second ball handler to Luca so he can have someone to fall back on. He's like, all right, I can come out. Jalen, this is on you. And Jalen's shown that he can do that, but that's just not ideal. It
Yeah.
really isn't. You want someone else on the court with Luca so they can bounce back off of each other. That would be deadly, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think you made a good
It's
point because like staggering minutes, I never really thought about that, but it's like Jalen Brunson is more important to this team than a lot of people realize because if you do
yeah,
stagger the minutes, like you give Luka an opportunity to rest. And if Jalen
exactly, which is
Brunson
what
is
he
not
needs.
playing well, you can't afford to have Luka on the bench. And we've seen that the
Nope.
first two games. So
Exactly.
I think that all around the supporting cast needs to step it up because like heliocentric offense, which the Mavs are running, is not sustainable. And Draymond Green
Exactly.
said it the best, in his podcast a couple weeks ago. He was like, when we were going against James Harden Rockets, we weren't going to stop Harden. Harden was going to get his 30-point triple doubles, but we were going to
Yeah.
count on him tiring out, which is what happened every single time.
Every single time, man. And Luca he didn't fall apart in that fourth quarter, but the Suns, I know that it's also Luca kind of crumbling in the second half in itself, but we also have to credit the Suns for having an absurd second half. Like
Yeah.
that fourth quarter between Devin Booker and Chris Paul was just amazing. And it's always fun to see Chris Paul just kind of willow his way through the first three quarters. He's like, all right, I'm gonna get a couple buckets, I'm gonna hit a couple threes, get my hockey assist in, get my dimes up, get my teammates involved. fourth quarter come time, he's the king of the fourth quarter, man. He's
Yeah.
going into these fourth quarters, 14 points on 6 for 7 shooting. He was looking elite, and it's crazy watching him because he personally has messed up my Nuggets on multiple occasions on that same thing, where you're just watching him play and he gets to his spots every
Every time.
single time. And then you're like, dude, he's doing the same thing. Why aren't you stopping it? It's so predictable, but that's how much of a mastermind Chris Paul is that he manipulates the game so he can get to those spots every single time and it works. And
Yeah.
he proved again last night as to why his game ages like fine wine, man. And we also got to give credit to Devin Booker too because he also had, I think he dropped 9 in the fourth quarter too, just deep threes. He was
He also
just
had 9 in the first quarter
strapping.
as well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, man. Starting off hot. He's starting to get back into his rhythm, which you love to see. He's looking elite as always. But
Dude,
those two,
if there's
I, I,
anything
I don't see.
Devin Booker has learned from Chris Paul, it's about getting to his spots.
Oh yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
that is
Totally.
like a insane talent. Commanding the game, like they're literally dictating the game, and you know exactly what they're gonna do, but you just can't stop it.
You can't, and I think that's one thing that Chris Paul does is that like he really isn't doing too much. Every once in a while, you see him get into his bag a little bit. You'll see him get into his moves, but if you watch what he's doing, it's nothing crazy. He's getting to
No,
his
it's not.
spots every single time. He's not over dribbling. He's not overworking himself. He's playing within his game, within his pace, and like you said, man, Devin Booker has learned a lot from it, and you can tell it's rubbing off on him,
Yeah,
and it's
definitely.
looking real, real elite, man.